when it comes to crossing the Channel. We all know what's going on there. Get this, so everybody, yesterday, 882 people made that crossing. Has anyone got the answer to this, do you believe, Aaron Bastani?
I struggle to think so. In terms of it stopping, not really. I mean, obviously, Reform have come out with a pretty strident position with regards to their manifesto this week. But no, I don't think so. I mean, I think my views on this are pretty well documented, that you can't have a foreign policy, and it's not an immediate solution, but you can't have a foreign policy which purposely tries to dismantle countries overseas and then get upset when those people come over here. By way of one example, Iran, I'm sure, I don't know for sure, but with regards to this specifically, but I'm sure many of those 882 people coming over yesterday, many would have been from Iran. We have a policy of economic sanctions on Iran designed to destroy that country's economy. So I find it rather strange that we would then say, oh my goodness, they're leaving a country we're trying to economically detonate. How dare they? So I think if you want to...
So then you must accept that they're economic migrants then?
Many will be, yes, of course. From Iran, many will be.
And of course, you've got countries,
many will be.
Vietnam, for example.
I would leave.
Or Vietnam, for example, was one of the top countries where people were coming over from. So that argument doesn't really ring... what was it, Algeria? Was it Algeria? No, Albania, until recently, until we got that returns agreement. So some, yes, true for some of those countries, but certainly not for all. What do you make to it all, Peter Hitchens?
Well, I agree with Aaron about this. It's ridiculous for us to make so many wars of choice, particularly in the Middle East. And above all, the disastrous David Cameron-Libya war, which opened up the Mediterranean crossings. It's ridiculous for us to do this kind of thing and then be surprised when it increases the level of illegal migration here. And we should stop doing these adventures immediately and realise the connection. It still leaves you with the problem of people coming across the Channel. I don't think the thing can be solved. I think it can be very much ameliorated. I think I have to revise what I've said about the Rwanda scheme because of what's happened in Ireland, where it's quite plain that it is beginning to have a deterrent effect. And also, as the Prime Minister has now pointed out several times, a number of continental countries have begun to consider similar schemes. So I think we should stop necessarily mocking that as ineffectual. It might do some good. Ultimately, it depends on the French. I would pay the French almost anything and badger them limitlessly to get them to stop the people leaving. That is the nearest you'll get to a solution, is to get the French state, which if the French state decides to mobilise is extremely effective to get them to do it. I would very much concentrate on that plus Rwanda. You could get it down, but it doesn't solve the other problem of legal migration.
What do you think to Labour ripping up essentially that Rwanda plan on day one?
Well, it's very brave in a way, because actually that policy is quite popular with people. It was popular anyway. I certainly don't support it. I suppose the counter-argument by Labour is you've spent hundreds of millions, nobody's gone there, and it's not made any difference. It's a bit of a white elephant. But at the time,
two have now gone voluntarily, haven't they? Second one went the other day.
It was very popular when it was announced. I remember the polling around it.
But like what he said, like what Peter just said, it has been having an effect because people have been going to Ireland and then citing that.
I think that's an extremely powerful piece of evidence.
Anecdotally, but then
it's quite strong anecdotes.
For sure. But we're also talking about yesterday 882 people crossing the English Channel, so it can't be.
That goes with the weather, doesn't it? If the wind blows in certain directions and the sea is reasonably calm, you will get numbers going up. If it's the other thing, they'll go down. But the fundamental control point is them getting into the sea on the French side. And if the French can be persuaded to seriously interdict that, then we will get a long way. We haven't, I think, fully got there yet, and of course France is in its own chaos at the moment, but I think that if you want anything remotely resembling a solution, that's where it lies.
I mean, what I would say is, just quickly, Israel's talking about potential war with Lebanon. The French can quadruple spending on monitoring their coastline, etc. But if there's a war between Israel and Iran, for instance, we will have many more people coming here. It's as simple as that. So foreign policy really needs to be the cornerstone. If you care about this issue, it needs to be the cornerstone of that. You can't have, in your near abroad, millions of people constantly being displaced and expect them to not come here, because they will.
Let me ask you, I'm almost out of time for the show, let me ask you a very quick question. Do you think it is time to basically call a national emergency now when it comes to protecting borders, engage the military in trying to protect the border in the Channel, or not?
No, I think all such measures give excessive power to the state, and once they begin, they're very hard to dismantle. I think it would just be a slogan in the end. I think you have to look at carefully designed, intelligent measures to make things better, rather than seek endlessly a magic bullet which doesn't exist.
Do you think we need to call a national emergency and involve the military in this?
No, I think we need to drop sanctions on Iran. I think we need to have a different approach with regards to the governments of Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, and I think that's the place where you start. This starts and ends, I think, with foreign policy.
So we need to start getting into bed with the Taliban, for example?
Not getting into bed with them, just have a pragmatic look. If you don't want, tens of thousands of Iranians coming to this country over the channel, and many of those will be coming because of economic reasons, if you don't want that to happen, then of course we need to end sanctions on Iran. If you think the sanctions matter more, then that's fine. But then one consequence will be people will be leaving because they don't want to live and die in a country which is in permanent economic collapse.
And these sanctions tend to punish the pro-Western people in these countries as well.
I've got to say, I completely disagree with the pair of you. I think that they should have been an emergency declared a very long time ago. I absolutely think that the military should have been involved in defending that border. If people stormed border control at one of the airports, you wouldn't be all standing around pontificating about what foreign policy had caused that.
If a state of emergency was declared, it'd be like France. There'd be squaddies wandering around in shopping malls. That's all you'd get.